Look at this quiet street in Jalisco. During the day, it's painted in vibrant yellows and reds, buzzing with everyday life. But when the sun goes down, the boundary between the living and the dead becomes as thin as a strand of hair. Behind one of these doors was an old tailor shop called La Elegancia. The owner, Don Manuel, was a rigid perfectionist. He spent his life bent over this antique metal sewing machine, right up until the night he died suddenly at his workstation. The shop passed to his nephew, Hugo. Hugo was a cynical young man with zero interest in tailoring or family history. He cared strictly about liquidating the inventory to line his own pockets. But Hugo's quick cash grab resulted in an impossible crime scene. The very next morning, police broke through the shop's door, which was bolted from the inside. The room was completely emptied out. Hugo was missing entirely. In his place, standing in the front window, was a brand new, disturbingly realistic wooden mannequin. To understand how a man vanishes from a sealed room and leaves a living wooden statue behind, we have to look back at the evidence of his final night. There are two conflicting theories that explain exactly what happened in that shop. Let's retrace Friday night. Hugo was alone in the cluttered workshop, surrounded by old patterns and jars of thread, working late into the evening. He sat at his ledger, callously pricing out the last of his dead uncle's life work. Through the hum of the refrigerator, Hugo heard a soft wooden creak. In the front window stood Esteban, a mannequin from the 1940s. The angle of its head had shifted. It was no longer facing the street. Its glass eyes were staring directly at the corner where Hugo sat. This brings us to the first hypothesis: post-mortem possession. In folklore, when a person dies abruptly with intense unfinished business, their spirit can bind itself to a familiar physical anchor to complete its final task. An hour after the first noise, a freezing draft swept through the room. Hugo looked up. Esteban had moved from the window to the middle of the floor. The wooden figure was now dressed in a deep charcoal wool suit, the exact unfinished garment Don Manuel was working on when his heart stopped. Under the possession theory, Hugo provoked this attack. By treating the shop as a disposable piggy bank, he issued a direct, fatal challenge to a spirit that absolutely refused to be dismissed. The second theory is the sentient artifact, or tulpa. Abstract energy particles, representing intense human emotion, slowly accumulate inside an inanimate object. Over years of rigid perfectionism, those energies build up, hit a critical threshold, and solidify, awakening the wood into an independent consciousness. As Hugo tried to run, his legs went heavy. The entity weaponized his biology. He would blink, and the mannequin was closer. Blink, and it was 3 feet away. Blink, and it was right in front of him. Hugo fell back into his chair, paralyzed. The figure reached out, and the texture shifted. The fingers didn't feel like carved timber. They felt like cold, stiff skin, carrying the heavy scent of old dust and funeral lilies. Then a dry voice scraped out from the unmoving wooden lips. "You forgot to measure the neckline, Hugo." If the tulpa theory is accurate, morality plays no part in this. Hugo simply walked into the territory of an apex predator, perfectly camouflaged as a mundane piece of furniture. Regardless of which supernatural mechanics were at play, the morning sun revealed the same inescapable outcome for Hugo. The craftsmanship of the new Hugo mannequin standing next to Esteban was impeccable, but it defied physiological logic. It lacked glass eyes. Instead, nestled in the wooden sockets were real biological eyes. Stand close enough to the window and you can watch the pupils shrink when the sun hits them. And the nightmare doesn't end when the shop closes. If you stand outside La Elegancia on a quiet night and listen closely to the glass, you can hear the muffled, endless vibrations of a man trying to scream from behind a solid wooden throat. Hugo tried to rip away his uncle's life work for a quick payout and paid a deadly tax in return. You can never sell off a legacy that belonged to a man who refused to let go. So how are things feeling in your barbershop tonight, Alexander? Still quiet? When the street goes dark, which of your mundane, inanimate tools is watching?